Maserati did something in 1981 that almost nobody saw coming. In a small, sober coupe, they hid 2 turbochargers, a new 3-valve head, and a plan to beat taxes and Ferrari. It launched in Modena and sold big. It also broke hearts, wallets, and more than a few fuse boxes. Alejandro de Tomaso wanted an Italian BMW 3 Series. In autumn 1978, he greenlit a compact, front-engine, rear-drive coupe that regular professionals could buy. The key was Italy's tax law. Over 2.0 liters meant a 38% tax. Under 2.0 liters meant 19%. So Maserati built a 1,996 cubic centimeter V6 and let turbochargers do the heavy lifting. Engineer Giordano Casarini tried one turbo between the cylinder banks. It cooked everything nearby. The fix was elegant. 2 smaller IHI units, 1 per bank, in parallel. Spool faster, less lag, and, without planning for it, history's first twin-turbo production car. 3 valves per cylinder and Nicosil-coated wet sleeves added to the surprise. On December 14, 1981, at Via Ciro Menotti in Modena, the Biturbo met the world. Early figures: about 180 horsepower, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.2 seconds, and a top speed around 135 miles per hour, or 217 kilometers per hour. In a modest 2-door 2+2, that was eyebrow-raising. The idea spread across an entire family. Italy got the 2.0-liter carbureted at first, then fuel injected by 1987. Export models used 2.5 liters. From 1989, a 2.8-liter version reached 225 horsepower in North America and about 247 horsepower in Europe. Early oil-cooled turbos struggled. Water-cooled center sections arrived in 1986 and helped a lot. Variants became a maze. The Biturbo S of 1983 added twin intercoolers and more power. Marcello Gandini softened the styling for the late 1980s, birthing the 222 series, 1,156 units, and the rare 228, 469 units. 4-door sedans followed, 420, 422, and the 430 line with 995 total, including a scarce 434 valve run of 291. The Spider convertible, 3,076 units, sat on a shortened chassis. The Carif, 220 units, took that short wheelbase and turned the boost up. December 1990 brought the racing, a 2.0-liter screamer that claimed the title of most powerful 2.0-liter production car, with a top speed near 160 miles per hour, or about 257 kilometers per hour. Above it all sat the Shamal, 369 units. Gandini's muscular flagship with a 3.2-liter twin-turbo V8 and those signature rear-wheel arches. The Ghibli 2, 2,337 units, extended the platform into the 1990s, and the Ghibli Cup added a tiny, rare batch of 60, plus 15 on request. Under the skin sat solid ideas: unibody steel, independent suspension all around, disc brakes on every corner, rack and pinion steering, and a 5-speed manual with an optional 3-speed automatic. The baseline coupe weighed roughly 1,089 kilograms. Inside, you got leather, wood trim, full instruments, and the Trident everywhere. Outside you got restraint, which mattered in tense, late 1970s Italy, when flashy cars could attract the wrong attention. Culturally, the Biturbo did something wild. It beat Ferrari. The Ferrari F40 arrived in 1987 with twin turbos, and the Ferrari 288 GTO Evoluzione prototypes came later. But Maserati's production first was in 1981. Meanwhile, the Porsche 911 Turbo still used a single turbo in that era. The Biturbo even served as the Italian presidential car, a public nod to the program. Sales took off, more than 40,000 across the family, close to 45 variants total. In the United States, 1984 peaked at 2,023 units. Price? About $37,000, right in BMW 325 money. Then the problems arrived. Owners complained about smoking turbos, a fragile fuse box, cracking plastics, rust on early non-galvanized shells, overheating, electrical gremlins, and tricky carburetor setups. The timing belt needed timely replacement. Many skipped it, with expensive results. One summary line still stings. Everything that could leak, burn, snap, or rupture did so. Dealers struggled to service complex twin-turbo systems. Repair bills were exotic, but the buyer base was not. By 1990, the United States tally limped to about 5,000 cumulative, just 240 that year, and Maserati withdrew from the market. A high-profile side quest with Lee Iacocca produced the Chrysler TC by Maserati, which famously cost Chrysler about $600 million and helped nobody's reputation. Motorsport did not save the story. Alejandro de Tomaso did not want racing to distract the company. Attempts in the World Touring Car Championship in 1987, then the European Touring Car Championship in 1988 with the Marlboro Conquista effort, did not change the narrative. A few cars ran in touring and rally events, but there was no halo of victory. Yet the legacy is big. From 1981 to 1997, every Maserati model traced back to this architecture. All the Biturbo variants, 222, 228, the four-door lines, Carif, Racing, Shamal, Ghibli II, and even Quattroporte 4. The twin-turbo layout proved that two small units could cut lag. The small engine plus boost formula became industry standard. The Biturbo is a cautionary tale about rushing quality, and also the template many later cars quietly followed. Today, values flip the original pitch. An early Biturbo in good condition might average about $4,900, while a same-year BMW 325i convertible might sit around $16,300. The Shamal can fetch far more. Enthusiasts now see the Biturbo as flawed, fascinating, and, when maintained, surprisingly faithful. It was the affordable exotic with turbo power nobody expected. It saved Maserati and scarred it, and it changed how fast small engines make big numbers. A $33,000 sports car arrived in 1990 with twin turbos, four-wheel steering, and a body shaped by a supercomputer. It outpowered a base Porsche 911 Carrera, embarrassed Corvettes in tests, and later won at Daytona, Sebring, and Le Mans. The surprise was not just speed, it was method. Nissan called the program Project 901, 90 for the 1990 target year, and 1 for number 1. The team borrowed ideas from the Mid-4 concept, then did something bold for the time. The 300ZX was the first production car designed entirely with computer-aided design, powered by a Cray 2 supercomputer. Engineers tested prototypes on the Autobahn and the Nürburgring, while designers Toshio Yamashita and Isao Sono shaped the form. Yamashita was so strict that colleagues nicknamed him Yadashita. He likened the rear to a piece of corn and insisted on frameless glass for a smooth side profile. The result sliced the air with a 0.30 to 0.31 drag coefficient. Under the hood sat the VG30 Det, a 3.0-liter, 60-degree V6 with a cast-iron block. Aluminum heads, dual overhead camshafts, 24 valves, and Nissan variable cam timing on the intake side. The forced induction story is the shocker. Two Garrett iResearch hybrids, T25 compressor sides mated to T2 turbine sides, ran in parallel, one for each cylinder bank. Water-cooled centers, dual air-to-air intercoolers, and recirculation valves kept the wheels spinning through brief throttle lifts. Nissan claimed a 30% cut in rotational inertia versus a single turbo of equivalent flow, which is why lag felt so small. Performance numbers matched the promise. United States manual cars were rated at 300 horsepower and 283 pound-feet. Automatic cars were rated at 280 horsepower. In Japan, the advertised figure honored the 276 horsepower agreement, but real output was similar. Independent testing recorded 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.0 to 5.5 seconds, quarter miles in roughly 13.5 to 14.0 seconds, and a top speed near 155 miles per hour, or about 249 kilometers per hour. Curb weight ran from about 3,200 pounds to 3,500 pounds, which is roughly 1,450 kilograms to 1,590 kilograms, with a near-ideal 51.65 to 48.35 balance on a two-seat T-top car. Super high-capacity actively controlled steering turned the rear wheels for stability, and adjustable damping let drivers pick between touring calm and sport firmness. Inside, the cockpit wrapped around the driver with an aviation feel and digital climate control. Styling details still raise eyebrows. The low-fixed headlights, slanted at more than 60 degrees, were so advanced that Lamborghini licensed the design for the Diablo. Roof choices shaped the lineup: a light slick top, a popular T-top, and a convertible built with American Sunroof Company, beginning in 1993. In the United States, the twin-turbo came only with T-tops. The convertible was naturally aspirated. The 2+2 body was never twin-turbo here, though it existed in other markets. Racing made the engineering look prophetic. In 1992 and 1994, the car won International Motorsports Association Grand Touring Sport Championships with Steve Millen driving. In 1994, it won the 24 Hours of Daytona and the 12 Hours of Sebring, then finished 5th overall and 1st in class at Le Mans. Race-tuned VG30, DETT used much larger twin turbos and made between 800 and 950 horsepower. The tubular chrome molybdenum frame and front-center engine, rear-wheel drive layout faced prototype royalty, including Porsche 962S, and still brought home silverware. The road car's surprises went beyond the dyno. In period, it outgunned the base 911 Carrera on horsepower while costing about half as much. It showed up on major 10 best type lists for 7 straight model years and took home Import Car of the Year honors when new. The Z family also crossed 1 million United States sales during the 1990 model year. Nissan even booked a one-time Super Bowl spot, directed by Ridley Scott. The last act was messy fun. A 1996 toy-themed ad with a hard rock soundtrack triggered a lawsuit and got pulled. In Hollywood, the 300ZX twin-turbo nearly became Brian's hero car in the first street racing blockbuster. But the T-top roof limited stunt work. It still sneaks into films and shows. Kill Bill, Good Burger, Office Space, If Looks Could Kill, MacGyver, and more, but rarely in the spotlight. Production tells a rise and fall. United States sales opened at 39,290 in 1990, then slid as prices surged with the yen. By 1996, total United States production was 2,929, and twin turbos were scarce. 577 regular cars plus 78 commemorative twin turbos, a total of 655. There were also 104 Steve Millen Motorsports SMZ editions with factory-backed upgrades. Base pricing grew from about $30,000 to $33,000 at launch, to about $45,000 to $50,000 by the end, which pushed it toward the very cars it was built to undercut. There is a catch. The technology density that made the Z32 brilliant also made it a handful to service. The engine bay is packed. A timing belt is due every 60,000 miles. Reaching a single fuel injector can eat hours. Turbo replacement is often easiest with the engine out. Four-wheel steering components can leak. Well-maintained cars are praised as stone reliable. Neglected cars can become expensive projects. The community stepped up with parts houses, forums, and detailed guides, which is why clean twin turbos are climbing in value. Against its peers, the picture is clear. Toyota Supra Twin Turbo, A80, brought sequential boost and huge tuning headroom. Mazda RX-7 Twin Turbo, FD, chased lightness and agility. Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 added all-wheel drive and active aero. Corvette C4 offered V8 value. Porsche 944 and 968 chased balance, while 911 964 and 993 generations carried the icon torch. The Z32 sat in the middle with the most balanced mix of technology, comfort, and real pace. It won many tests when new, then faded in pop culture. Today, that gap between ability and fame is exactly why it still feels like turbo power nobody expected. The 1990 to 1996 Nissan 300 ZX twin turbo proved that careful engineering can make big boost feel natural. It was computer-born, road-tested in Germany, raced to global trophies, and priced into a corner. If you are prepared for the maintenance, the reward is a landmark car that still earns respect. A truck company building a turbo sports car with Italian styling and British handling sounds like a joke. Yet in 1979, a radical coupe stunned Geneva and Tokyo, and within 48 hours it was headed for production. By 1985, it was beating respected rivals to 60. Most people still missed it. Isuzu built its name on diesel engines and commercial vehicles. The Chevrolet Love, built by Isuzu, sold 100,000 units by the fourth quarter of 1972. The Isuzu Trooper and N-Series trucks cemented that image. General Motors bought a 34.2% stake in 1971 for $56 million, largely for truck collaboration. A Porsche rival from this crew felt like seeing a Kenworth try a lap at Monza. But in 1978, Isuzu gave Giorgetto Giugiaro of Italdesign total freedom to craft a new coupe to replace the 117 Coupe. His Asso di Fiori concept appeared at the Geneva Motor Show in March 1979 and the Tokyo Motor Show later that year. Isuzu fast-tracked it with minimal changes. The first car rolled out in 1980 as the Piazza. Regular production began in 1981. North America got the Impulse in 1983, and the Turbo arrived for 1985. The production car kept big ideas from the concept: a clean roof without external drip rails, integral wrapping doors, and a driver-focused pod of instruments clustered with the steering wheel. That door idea spread fast. Roughly one-third of cars built from 1981 to 1987 copied the approach. The shape was a tidy wedge with a rounded tail, pop-up headlamps, and a large hatch. On streets full of square sedans, it looked like a spaceship that paid taxes. Underneath, it started on the humble General Motors T-body, a relative of the Chevrolet Chevette. But Isuzu reworked it heavily, adding independent rear suspension for the turbo model. The turbo heart was the 4ZC1T, a 1,994 cubic centimeter single overhead cam, 8-valve inline-4 with multi-point fuel injection, an air-to-air intercooler, and 140 horsepower in the United States, 147 horsepower in the United Kingdom. Torque was 166 pound-feet. Cam timing sat at 266 degrees intake and 255 degrees exhaust. A key trick was iTech, Isuzu Total Engine Control, by Hitachi. It coordinated injection, ignition, and boost, using a hot wire airflow meter and a crank angle sensor type distributor. It delivered about 6.7 to 8.5 psi of boost without premium fuel. In 1985, that was witchcraft you could warranty. A 5-speed manual and rear-wheel drive were standard. The standard suspension used McPherson struts up front and a 5-link independent rear specific to the turbo. From 1988, you could get handling by Lotus, revised sway bars with a smaller front stabilizer, stiffer gas dampers, softer springs that paradoxically improved grip, new bushings, and Bridgestone RE71 tires. General Motors ownership tied these brands together, and the favor later flowed back when Lotus used an Isuzu Gemini engine and transmission in the Lotus Elan M100. There were flavors for different markets. Japan offered XE, XJ, XN, XG, Bella, and Nero, with a 180 horsepower turbo from 1984 and 185 pound-feet. The United Kingdom sold only the turbo at 147 horsepower. Australia, arriving in April 1986, was turbo only 2. Special Japan market Nero editions through Yanase Company, limited included the Piazza Nero Viva XS in November 1989, 100 units in British Green Mica with 150 horsepower, and the Piazza Nero Irmscher in March 1990, 50 cars with Irmscher suspension. An Irmscher setup was the stiffest suspension you could get on a Piazza. In 1987, the Impulse RS Turbo arrived in the United States, only in white with pewter trim, near Irmscher stiffness, a limited slip rear differential, extra chassis bracing, the same 4ZC1T, and the 5-speed. The result could hustle. Contemporary tests put the first-generation turbo at 0 to 60 miles per hour, or 0 to 97 kilometers per hour, in 8.5 seconds, matching the Porsche 944 and hanging within 0.1 to 0.2 seconds of the Mitsubishi Starion and Dodge Conquest. Quarter-mile figures were typically cited in the low to mid-16s. Weight landed around 2,400 to 2,500 pounds, about 1,090 to 1,135 kilograms. With the Lotus option, reviewers said the ancient bones felt thoroughly modern, and one slalom result even bettered a Mercedes 560 seconds. Why did this fade? Isuzu's limited dealer network and modest marketing could not fight Nissan, Toyota, and Mazda. Prices were high. Front-wheel drive coupes surged. The second-generation styling lost Giugiaro's cohesion. After the Japanese bubble burst and regulations tightened, General Motors nudged Isuzu out of passenger cars by 1993. As of 2010, only about 2,300 Impulses were registered in North America. Today, values remain rational. A 1985 Impulse Turbo often sells between $11,500 and $19,936, while a 1991 RS has sold around $18,940. For contrarian collectors, that is opportunity. So the Isuzu Impulse, also known as Piazza, was the turbocharged sports car nobody expected. Truckmaker pedigree, Giugiaro design, Lotus handling, iTech brains, and real pace. It proved that platform sharing can create a genuine driver's car, even if the badge on the nose made buyers look away. Ferrari arrived at Geneva in 1984 with something nobody expected. After 40 years of worshipping high revs and natural aspiration, Maranello showed a twin-turbo car and called it a GTO. The message was simple and shocking. The future of speed would not breathe on its own, and Ferrari would lead it. Ferrari had long treated turbocharging like a party it would never attend. The company built dozens of naturally aspirated V12 engines and tuned them for linear power, instant response, and glorious noise. Engineers warned that turbo lag dulled the right foot, that throttle response became a puzzle, and that low-end torque killed the rising to redline drama that defined the badge. So why break the rule? By 1983, Enzo Ferrari heard from friends and buyers that sales were slipping and the lineup felt too gentle. Meanwhile, the 126C turbocharged Formula One program proved the point. A 1.5-liter V6 with increasing boost won the Constructors' Championship in 1982 and 1983. Power grew from the hundreds into four figures. Rival brands embraced forced induction. New Italian tax rules rewarded small displacement. Even Enzo agreed. It was time for what Michele Alboreto called cattiva cars again. Group B opened the door. The International Motorsport governing body required only 200 road cars plus 20 evolutions. Ferrari answered with the 288 GTO, named Gran Turismo Omologata, to match its mission. Production ran from 1984 to 1987 and totaled 272 cars, 200 to meet homologation, 72 more for top clients, with the final car gifted by Enzo to Niki Lauda. Just 32 reached North America. Ferrari had dabbled with one-turbo earlier. The 208 GTB Turbo of 1982 used a single K26 unit for Italy's tax rules. It made 220 horsepower and stayed local. The 288 GTO was different. This was turbocharging as a performance creed. It became the first twin-turbo Ferrari road car, the first mid-engine Ferrari with a longitudinal turbo V8, and the first time forced induction was the whole point. Under the deck sat a 90-degree, all-aluminum, 2.855-liter V8, turned longitudinal to equalize exhaust lengths. It breathed through twin IHI turbochargers, bare air-to-air intercoolers, and Weber Marelli fuel injection. Compression sat at 7.6 to 1. Output was 395 horsepower at 7,000 revolutions per minute, and 496 newton-meters at 3,800 revolutions per minute, about 140 horsepower per liter. A 5-speed manual sent power to the rear wheels. Dry weight was 1,160 kilograms. Performance was blunt. 0 to 60 miles per hour took 4.8 to 5.0 seconds, which is 0 to 97 kilometers per hour. Top speed reached 189 miles per hour, or 304 kilometers per hour. The power-to-weight ratio was 341 horsepower per ton. At launch in 1984, it was the fastest production car on sale, until the Porsche 959 arrived. The core came from the 308 GTB, but the surgery was radical. Displacement was trimmed to 2.855 liters for Group B. The engine rotated from transverse to longitudinal. Twin turbos and intercoolers arrived. Power jumped from 240 horsepower in a 308 GTB to 395 horsepower in the 288 GTO. The wheelbase stretched by 200 millimeters. Most panels became molded fiberglass. The hood used Kevlar. The roof blended Kevlar and carbon fiber. Doors stayed steel to meet regulations and costs. You could spot it from a block away. Fender flares swelled over wider tires. Spoilers grew to keep it steady at big speed. Large flag mirrors stood proud. 4 driving lights flanked the grille. NASCAR ducts sliced air to brakes and engine bay. Many of these cues had been teased as early as 1977 by Pininfarina on a 308 GTB show car. Leonardo Fioravanti shaped the final look. Purposeful, compact, a little mean. The reveal in March 1984 caused a rush. Orders outpaced plans. And all 272 were spoken for before full production started. One hopeful buyer even paid 20,000 Swiss francs for a promise to buy car number 201 if it ever got built. Enzo's late career decision had struck a nerve. Then, tragedy changed the plan. In 1986, Henri Toivonen and Sergio Cresto died at the Tour de Corse. At Rally Portugal, Joaquim Santos crashed his Ford RS. 203 spectators were killed. Group B ended that year. The 288 GTO never turned a competitive wheel, but it did something larger. It founded Ferrari's modern supercar line. Nicola Materazzi, nicknamed Mr. Turbo, tied it all together. He joined Ferrari in 1979 for forced induction expertise, helped create the Formula One turbos, chose the longitudinal layout for equal runners, and then led the Ferrari F40. His approach made the 288 GTO feel angry, yet crisp, with lag pushed to the margins and character intact. The 288 GTO Evoluzione showed where it might have gone next. 5 were built with about 650 horsepower, wild aero, and serious weight cuts. Group B's end kept them off the grid, but their ideas fed directly into the F40. Rarity keeps the legend sharp. Only 272 exist, with values today commonly in the $2.50 to $4.2 million range, an average around $3.8 million in 2023, and notable sales such as chassis 47509 at $3.2 million. Surviving unmolested examples are coveted because some cars were crashed, modified, or stored poorly. Why did it shock the world? Because Ferrari broke its own code. It put twin turbos on a car wearing the sacred GTO badge, made it the fastest thing on the road, and proved that forced induction could feel utterly Ferrari. In the process, it saved the company's swagger and taught the brand how to build the future.